Hello boys and girls, on my desk right now is a new high-performance build based on a CO Designs GladiusXL chassis. I started this channel building hard-body trucks, but more recently I've become addicted to slaying lines. I've built a few comp rigs that are fairly good at that. However, the addiction has grown and now I need something stronger to cure this disease many of us suffer from. That is where this GladiusXL comes in. I'm hesitant to call this a class 3 because to me, class 3 builds have buggy chassis, battery on axle, 4-wheel steer, and I'm just not into that kind of stuff right now. But I do want this to be freed from class 2 regulations. I want it to be longer and wider than all my other trucks, has the biggest tires, and at the same time be lighter than all my other trucks. I also want to experiment with parts I've not had the opportunity to incorporate into my builds before and see how they impact performance. And hopefully the result is something that is capable of unimaginable lines. I chose the red and black forged carbon fiber chassis rails. That's going to be the color scheme of this build. To get this truck extra long, I went to RC Steve and got his suspension links in 165mm wheelbase, which is 10mm longer than the Gladiator/Power Wagon. Most of that is in the back of the truck because the front links are only about deadbolt front length. The purpose of that is to help with increasing front end weight bias. I got the links in titanium to save weight. This chassis is designed to use a carrier bearing, which isn't permitted in class 1 or 2, so I've never had one. Carrier bearings keep the rear drive shaft up and out of the way to maximize bottom side clearance. That would be beneficial because of the extra long wheelbase I have here. We'll get to the drive shafts in a bit. I'm using plastic axles to keep the overall weight low. The axles I picked are Little Guy Racing Parts injection molded Super8 axles. They are 8mm wider per side than stock axles. They'll give me the wider stance I'm after. I also got a few brass parts to help with front end weight bias. We'll talk more about them later. First, let's work on gearing these axles. Only recently I found out MofoRC makes an extensive selection of gears with ratios offered by no one else. I'm going to experiment with 11% underdrive in the front and 43% underdrive in the rear. Combined, they would give me a 32% rear underdrive. What I'm hoping for is a super slow crawl and improved torque. We'll see how this setup works out. I'm adding a brass Little Guy Racing Parts diff cover to the front axle. I 3D printed a diff slider to go on top of it. For the knuckles, I got a pair of tiny Terrains Brass Brawlers. They are made of brass with tungsten embedded on its lower portion. I have here a brass version of 3Flow9 RC's roller bearing steering link. Finally, a brass Little Guy Racing Parts adjustable servo mount to top it all off. In the back, after the 43% underdrive gears are installed, I'm putting on a huge diff slider from 3Flow9 RC. It replaces the diff cover entirely. Since I have this red and black theme going on, I'm using this red edition of the NSDRC RS100 steering servo. Next, let's prepare the shocks. The shocks I got for this build are these NEXX Racing 36mm big bore shocks with functional oil reservoirs for dampening adjustments. I never tried these shocks before. I look forward to seeing if the additional adjustment really makes a difference. All I know right now is they feel pretty smooth. I took a couple of them apart to check and they are filled with oil. Eagle-eye viewers might have noticed I have some spacers on my front links. more on the lower ones. The reason I extended my front links is because I want to mount the motor forward facing to keep the center of gravity low, and I needed more room. The reason I have more extension on the lower links is so I can clock the front axle back to get the caster angle exactly where I want it. This is a Furitek Mini Komodo brushless motor on a carbon fiber motor mount from V.ENG. Look at how beautifully it tucks right behind this NSDRC steering servo, down low and towards the front, nice and neat. This link setup uses a short deadbolt drive shaft up front. I'm using the black metal one from Injora. In case you didn't know, the black one from Injora collapses shorter than the silver one does. In the middle, the distance from the motor to the carrier bearing looks like a C10 front, and it looks like a deadbolt rear going to the rear axle. For these two, I'm using the stock plastic drive shafts to minimize weight. For wheels and tires, I'm going to test out some 1.8-inch wheels. I really didn't want to because they are ugly, but I want to see if they're really worth the hype. So I got these cheap RampCrab ones. The 1.8-inch size is preferred by people who seek maximum performance because of the lack of tire sidewall, which means there's no sidewall flex, offering a more predictable driving dynamic. With ugly wheels come ugly tires. Here's a set of Injora's Cling-Ons in 17mm diameter. I hear they are pretty good. They are for 1.3-inch wheels, so cutting is required to get them to fit over 1.8-inch wheels. I made a jig with my 3D printer to help with the process, but it's not really necessary. I also cut the 1.3-inch inserts to leave only the outer portion so they work with 1.8-inch wheels. Bigger tires provide more clearance under the axles, but they raise the vehicle center of gravity, which is why all the parts I've been using are lightweight. Another reason I'm running 1.8-inch wheels is so that I can use knuckle weight hangers I designed for the tiny Terrains knuckles. They add an additional 32 grams by just using stainless steel weights to the lowest point of the truck. I also designed a version for the rear axles that hold less weight. They add about 12 grams. I've uploaded these knuckle weight hangers online. They are available for you to download and print for free right now. All you gotta do is buy the metal weights. The stainless steel ones I'm using are available on Amazon. I can't find tungsten dowels in these sizes on Amazon. If you know where I can buy them, please let me know. I'll have links to every part I use here in the description, including where you can download all my weight hangers. For ESC, I'm going to test out another part I've never tried before. This is MofoRC's RockWolf ESC that have been pre-programmed for Mofo's slow motion pancake brushless motor. I have that motor in another truck, but the Furitek Mini Komodo is very close in specifications, so hopefully it works well out of the box without additional adjustments. I only have one fairly small slider to place the electronics, so I'm stacking the ESC on top of a FlySky receiver. I printed a little tray for them. I will have the battery on the other side, all held down by Velcro. For the body, since the goal is to maximize performance, it has to be legs and shell. I've chosen the Proline cliffhanger. It's got a more rounded design, it's dovetailed, it's got a raised hood, it's got bulging fenders, different than the typical boxy 4x4 bodies. So I thought this would better exemplify the experimental nature of this build. So after a lot of cutting, trimming, and painting, here it is. I wanted to do this red to black gradient, but it didn't work out so well. This chassis kit doesn't come with any body mounts, but I happen to have an extra NW Chassis Works body mount from their Athos chassis kit, and coincidentally, its screw holes line up. They do sell this body mount by itself if you need it. For the rear, I 3D printed a hinge. It was one I found online, but I had to modify it to give it more clearance because it's right on top of the rear axle due to the extended wheelbase. All right, there we go. It is done. Let's bring it over to my scale garage and look at its numbers. Welcome back to the garage. It's still a work in progress. I've begun printing cinder block walls, but I ran out of filament. Captain Cassian Andor runs the shop. He's enlisted the help of a crew of dummy 13s to keep my trucks in check. All right, so here's the measurements. It came out heavier than I wanted it to be, but still much lighter than all my other trucks. There's a bit more on the side with the battery. I could change it to a smaller one to balance it out. Let's head outside and see how it crawls. I just realized the racing stripes look like the Adidas logo. That was entirely unintentional. I admit this body is not my best work. It's not as pretty as my other Lexan bodies. I got a few that I'm really proud of. You can see them on my channel. I guess you can say I didn't do this Proline Cliffhanger body justice. Proline Cliffhanger is iconic, but I never understood what the Cliffhanger name means until now. I spent the entirety of this shakedown on the bottom of a seaside cliff. I got to do some side hill, or rather side cliff lines that I never even thought of trying before. The GladiusXL chassis paired with RC Steve's links is a impressive combination. The best thing they can do is stay out of the way and make you feel they aren't there. When I fail a line with this rig, it's usually because I flip over, not because I get hung up on rocks. These 1.8-inch wheels look absolutely ridiculous, but now I understand why some comp guys like them. They are predictable, there's no flex, no squish, no wiggle. It either grabs or it doesn't. When it doesn't, you change your line. Oh, and also using the face of the wheel to prop yourself up to hang on a ledge is much easier with these larger wheels. It's a very useful maneuver. It works with smaller wheels, but much easier with these 1.8s. However, I'm pretty sure I'm going to replace them with a set of 1.3s, and that is entirely because of looks. These weight hangers in the front won't work with 1.3-inch wheels, but I've already designed one that does. I have a few weight hangers on MakerWorld that you can download for free. These ones are for tiny Terrains knuckles. I also have ones for Mia's knuckles for 1.8-inch and 1.3-inch wheels, also for both front and rear axles. Go check them out. There's a link in the description. By the way, I did wrap a couple of elastic bands around the front shocks, not tightly, just some thin ones to slow the downward movement of the front shocks without limiting their travel. I find the dampening adjustment on the shock's oil reservoir doesn't do enough for that, likely because of how heavy the knuckle weight hangers are. Although it's not my lightest rig, it's still much lighter than all my other Class 2s. There are many reasons why a lightweight truck could be beneficial, and one reason among many is so I can pull moves like this, pivoting the truck by quickly blipping the throttle. I started the video saying I built this rig in order to satisfy my pursuit for a line slayer. Not only this rig has not done that, it makes me want to find out even more just how much better a true class 3 comp buggy with battery on axle, that kind of stuff could be. You know what I mean? Those Profit Pro specs with even longer wheelbase. Anyway, this has been a fun build as always. I appreciate any suggestions to help improve my rigs. Please leave a comment. Please also like and subscribe. I got many SCX24s in the works. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.